Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing the Ultra Artist Book by Anupam. This is A4 size and it has 25 sheets, 200 GSM, and it's for INR 200. So let's first unwrap this whole cover outside and let's see how the paper is inside. So this is what the sketchbook looks like. I love how the cover is. It's so beautiful, the texture. It's a nice print which they've created, and this one is like they've printed a very nice gold thing over here. It says Ultra Artist Book, and remove this. Thin, it's not too thick, but it's nice. And this is 200 GSM paper. It's very smooth on one side and it's got like a little bit of texture on the other side, and I'll just make you hear the sound. So it's thick, it's not too thick, it's almost like cartridge paper, slightly thicker than that. And it says over here that it is good for best results with pencil, poster and watercolors. So since it says watercolors can be used, we're going to try that. We'll also use some pencils on top and see that. And it's very nice. I think the price wise it is really less, 200 for about 25 sheets, and A4 size. I don't think there's perforation, so it doesn't have perforation. So if you're going to make artwork and want to tear out of it, you can't do that. But I think this will be good enough for us to create some fun artwork. So I'm going to try and do that. I am going to in fact paint I think a cute little elephant in this using watercolors. So let's get on to that and see how this paper is. So I'm going to draw a cute little elephant over here. Let's just create like an imaginary boundary, as if you're seeing through the lens of a rectangular thing over here. And I'm going to draw an elephant. I'm not going to do a very realistic one. You can create anything that you feel like, because I like testing out the papers that I get or the sketchbooks that I get. I like to draw some animals. I like to draw some underwater things. I also draw like leaves and flowers and a lot of fruits. So earlier I used to do a lot of fruits, and now I'm in the phase of just drawing a lot of animals. So we're going to do that. I'm not going to create a very cartoony one, at the same time not very realistic one, just like a version in the middle of it, if I must say. Okay, and let's create the legs. I'm going to have them like have this elephant walking, and let's have like grass over here. I love elephants. I think they are the cutest animals which are out there. So I've got a very simple drawing of an elephant over here. It's also got like a nice tusk. Let's make its ears even more elongated. That looks cute. So it's time to erase all the extra pencil marks. And I'm going to use some watercolors, but because this is completely hot press, that is, it's very smooth on this side, I really don't know how good the watercolors would hold. I think wash would generally hold better, which is another version of poster colors. Poster colors is, I would say, like a very, very basic student version of it. But since they have said that it is okay for watercolors, I'm going to just try out. I think we'll not have the grass. We can have this elephant just floating around. Okay, yeah, if we have it like this, I think we can just do simple background and we can add like some leaves. Yeah, I think I should do that. And this would look really nice. Like crazy exaggerated leaves which are out here. Okay, all right, so we can also add some flowers. I think I'll make the flowers directly is what I was thinking, but I want to also give a background, so let's make some flowers. Okay, so just lightening the whole thing. Ideally, you should use a putty eraser. That would be the best thing, because then you will have no dust. Like all of this dust which is over here, it gets in the way of your painting and it just like makes it so messy. Alright, so I'm going to go grab my watercolor paints and we'll start painting this. So I've got a very beautiful palette which is called as Woodlands, and the colors inside are very nice, earthy. So I'm going to use the colors from this palette today to make this painting. So let's begin. We'll start first with painting the body of our elephant, and I'm just going to choose like a mid-size round brush, and we'll start with something very light. I want to create a few layers but not like too many, because it's 200 GSM. I really don't know if it will take in that much of paint. So this is just like an undertone that I'm creating right now. So when you take the color from your cakes, it's a good idea to also put them onto a palette and then use them, because I've been used to using these paints for so long. I just like, you know, directly also use it sometimes, but if you're a beginner, then I would highly recommend you to definitely put it first on a palette. So I've got my first color here. We'll now use some cavern and then we'll use this bear. So I can also use this section here to mix in my colors. So my paper is already buckling, so I know that I cannot use a lot of layers and too much water. It will kind of spoil the paper and might even tear, so I have to be a little careful about that. In fact, over here I already feel like it looks a little odd. So let's take the darkest color, which in this palette is called as the bear. Although we're going to be using it for the elephant. It's raining beautifully in Bangalore, so it's going to take a while for these to dry, and that's fine with me. We'll probably, you know, just wait it out, let it dry, and then we'll add in some details. Just using a little bit of water to just merge this down. So I'm going to now wait for some time for this to dry out, and then we will add in colors for the leaves, and then we'll also add some colors for the background. So for the background, I am thinking, I was initially thinking of adding some kind of yellow, but I think it will be too much. So we'll add this beautiful color of the pond, and then we'll add in the leaves, and we'll add in some flowers with this foxberry color. So this is almost dried, but you can see that my paper is sort of buckling up. So I think it would be a good idea for me to just use some clips to pull this down. Otherwise, it's kind of crazy. The paper will start buckling and I really don't want that to happen. Alright, so I'm going to now first paint the background color. We'll use this really nice blue, which is over here. So you can see this one. I think we should use this color and add a little bit of this in the background as well. I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush and we'll mix a little more of that color and then we will paint the background. So let's mix this color. I want to mix enough of it and keep it. So got a good amount of color mixed over here. Let's add it to the background. I'm going to leave it with very light. I don't think this paper is that good for doing like a lot of watercolor layers like how I did for the elephant. I think because it's also hot press, you can see that it's drying out like really fast, even though it's been like raining where I am. So ideally it shouldn't really dry out so fast, but I think you shouldn't use a lot of water, like you shouldn't use a lot of layers. So just think it's best to refrain from that. So it's good for like doing your regular basic practice, not a lot of detailed work. Do what I'm doing right now, just draw and then fill in the colors over there. But if you're going to be like looking to do elaborate work, this is not really the paper for that. For the price, I think it's perfect. It's good. 200 GSM, A4 size, so many sheets, and for watercolors, it's hard to find like very good quality at this price. So for basic practice, or if you're going to give it to kids to do very basic watercolors, then this is perfectly fine. So what I'm doing is trying to push the boundaries and go really crazy so that we know to what extent we can really create stuff. So you can learn from me in terms of like what would work, what would not work, how much can you really push in this paper. So same goes with poster colors. I don't think you should use like a lot of water. Make sure that your paint is creamy when you're applying it. If you're going to be using too much water, then definitely it will go through the other side and your paper might also tear. So be a little careful about that. I think for the flowers, I will use like a little bit of gouache to like show as a layer on top. Otherwise it may look a little weird. Like with this very basic layer itself, I feel like the paper is kind of buckling up. Let's just use a little bit of this darker color, mixing it in the same thing so it stays in the same family, and just add it in a few places. So if you've seen a lot of my sketchbook tours, you would have seen that this is a very common style that of my art style, where I create an animal and then just add some like leaves and flowers around it. I just find this so soothing to create. I've done this a lot with ink and using dip pens, mapping nibs. It's just so much fun to create art with different kinds of mediums. The result that you get each time, it just blows your mind of what all you can create. Don't be too hard on yourself if you are not getting the kind of final product that you want. It's okay. Just make sure that you have a lot of fun, and it's okay if your first page of your artwork is not perfect. Like there's nothing called perfect in art, but if it's not up to the mark, if you feel like it's not so good, but it's just a sketchbook, it's the place where you can experiment. Sketchbooks are meant for you to experiment, so don't feel guilty about anything in that. So I'm going to wait right now for this to dry out a little more. Meanwhile, what I'm going to do is just take out some greens and keep it in my palette. This one has just one nice green, which is called as the deep moss. I'm just going to take that out. I'll probably mix it a little bit with the daylight also to create two different versions of the greens. So we have a light and a dark version. So sometimes when you use palettes like this, you don't have to break your head to make your own color palette. You do fix it because the color palette which they have like pre-created is very nice to use, especially of this brand. I love the colors that come in each of their sets. So I've got two colors here. Create a slightly lighter version of it by adding more water. So I'm going to now wait for the background to dry out a little more. You can see that it's a little patchy because there's a lot of water, but that's okay. We are going to add some details over there, here and there, so that's going to look really nice. So my background is almost dry. I know it looks very messy right now, but it's all going to come together very soon. So just have some patience. I am going to add some leaves, and while I add that, I'm just going to add the lighter and darker tones then and there, so that I get like a good range. In some we can just make it completely dark. So in that case, I'll just use water to like gradate it down. Simple things like these work. The elephant also looks a little dried out, but don't worry about that. I'm going to add some details on top. We'll use some color pencils, we'll use some other details, and we'll make it pretty active. We'll add like some dark tones to them. I really like trying out new sketchbooks. It makes me feel very excited each time I get a new sketchbook and I open it and I see how the same art behaves so differently in every book. And that's always like a wonder for me. I keep thinking, how is it possible that everything changes with the kind of paper that you use, the strokes that you use, the medium that you use with it. So it's quite exciting for me that way. So some of the leaves are quite light. We'll leave them that way. Let's mix a little bit of the two greens to create this one. It's kind of got over. So I love how the whole thing is now coming to life. It's okay if your colors merge with each other. It is going to look good. That's the beauty of watercolors. So just go with the flow. So why it's important to give depth in some places is it will help you to create some contrast, and that will look really nice. I think the plain greens are not looking that good, which was the darkest color that we had used. A little bit of a yellowish tint is looking much nicer, which is why in these two I've just added a hint of the yellow green. Okay, so I'm now going to wait for this to dry out, and while this dries out, I am going to just mix this beautiful color for the flowers. And I was thinking of doing gouache, but I think we'll just stick with watercolors for now. In a few areas wherever it's dry, let's use this as it is. It looks so pretty. It's okay if you add the colors and it merges with your background color and creates a third color. That's fine. That's actually a property of watercolors, and I feel like you must take advantage of these things. That's what will give you like a wide variety of artwork. Maybe some smaller ones also. Or we should just like have dots. I think doing this with pencil would have been a better idea, but it's okay. Because these dots will take much longer to like dry out. Okay, so I'm just going to like wait for this to dry out a little bit, and then I'm going to use color pencil and add lots of details inside. And before that, I'm just going to take some tissue, dab on these circles so it becomes a little lighter. And yeah, I like the effect of this more. So it looks as if, you know, I've splattered some paint on top. That's much better looking than those bigger blobs. Alright, so I'm going to come back after drying this out. So my paints have almost dried up. I've got some color pencils over here with different colors. We'll start with the elephant. So let's take these 3 browns. So even if it's like a little wet, it's okay, because these are watercolor pencils and it'll help to like, it'll just like blend in. So I think that will be pretty nice. Just adding a little bit of texture here and there. Really like adding these details. We will be adding more shades. You can also use like a black pen to add in these details. You can, or add these details with dark pencil. You can use a micron. You can use, I used to earlier use dip pen and ink. Like I was thinking about doing that here, but because it's 200 GSM, I have a feeling that it cannot really withstand it. So it may just like, you know, create a lot of blotches and blobs, and I didn't want to like face that. So that's why I decided that I will not use ink, and I thought, okay, it'd be better to use the color pencil. So you can see how the whole thing has got elevated because of using these color pencils. It looks so much different right now. There's some form, there's like a nice shape that you can see, details. So this is so much that you can do. We're just using, you know, a little bit of color pencil, some depth. You don't need water soluble color pencils. I am not even going to add water on top of this right now. It's just that, you know, because if it's still wet, the color pencils will just blend in. Like in some areas I can feel that it's still wet, but these will just blend. It will help to create thicker and thin lines that way. So I like that effect. And also because I have this, so easier to like just use the things up that I have. It's just never enough. No matter how many art supplies I have, I just feel like I need to keep trying out new ones all the time. The curiosity never goes away from me. a little bit here, and now I'm using the darkest shade to add in the final set of details. I really like how my elephant looks. If you're new to my channel, do consider subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you can get notifications every time I put up a new video. I put up videos, in fact, every day now. I put up either shorts or a full tutorial. So tutorials, unboxing, teaching different kinds of art forms, showing you different everything about art. I put up on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays, and the rest of the days you will get to see shorts from my on my channel that also will sometimes have tutorials and sometimes I'll have unboxing. So don't miss out on any of these fun things, and if you subscribe, then you get a lot of beautiful content that you can use to increase your knowledge in art, and also like learn about various types of art supplies which are out there. Sometimes it's just very difficult to understand what art supply one requires, because there's just so much. So what I do is I'm very curious about art supplies, so I just go get my hands on different ones. I try them out, I test them out in the way that it's supposed to be used, in the way that it's not supposed to be used, and I put up videos and tutorials for you guys to know how that art supply is, whether it suits your needs or it doesn't. So you don't have to go through the trouble of buying every single thing and then not being able to use them. I think that's the most painful part, because most art supplies don't come cheap. They are pretty expensive, especially anything which is not a student grade is quite on the higher side. So because of that, it would be very nice if you will subscribe to my channel, if you leave comments, and if you would like to join my beautiful YouTube family and take it forward. Then I can bring you lots and lots of more videos like this. You can see how the whole thing looks so beautiful right now. It's just elevated so much. I just love how it looks at this moment. Just adding in a few smaller leaves here and there. You don't really need to do this. I'm just testing it out to see how it looks if I add that. And now time for the flowers. I haven't drawn the stems, so I'll probably use a brown color pencil only to create the stems of these flowers. I was initially thinking green, but there's already an overload of green, so we'll not do that. We'll just use this nice brown. So it looks intertwined. This looks really nice. So in the background, I think it's okay. There is of course a little bit of distortion. It's not perfect. The background looks a little crazy, but otherwise I think this looks very nice. I like the paper. I wouldn't say it's the best for watercolors. It's okay for watercolors, but it's really nice for everyday practice. And for the price, I think it's good. It will not make you feel very bad, because a lot of times when we have really bad art supplies, it just makes you feel awful. When you use a expensive book and bad art supplies, and at the same time expensive art supplies and a bad book. So this I think is a good balance in that way. So it doesn't make you feel too bad about it. So for your daily sketchbook practice, I would highly recommend, if you were looking for some budget friendly option, then this is a good one. I am going to definitely make like a lot of art with these, so you can watch out for more of my videos. I'm just going to try and do something to block out these blotches. So like I was saying, I am going to do a lot of it, art on this. I don't waste my art books. I somehow use them for something or the other. Like for example, if this one is not good enough for watercolors, I will definitely be doing a lot of pencil work on this, or just crayons and oil pastels. I'm going to try that. So I will definitely be using this for different kinds of art supply. So watch out for my tutorials on different things. If you have got the sketchbook already and are wondering how do I finish this, then I will definitely put more tips and videos. I'm just going to do a little bit of like a darker shade towards the inside, so the whole thing pops out a little more. I've kept these tutorials real time because then it'll help you to understand how I paint, and you can get clues from it, or you can learn from this and try and create a lot of paintings from your side. You have the option to speed it up and watch it if you want to just see the technique and you don't want to hear me talk. Speed it up, put it on mute, play some other background music and watch it. Just a little bit more here, and I think then we'll be done. So I'm trying to be a little careful because I know that these are water soluble pencils. So if I add too much, then or if I run my brush too much over it, then it will dissolve, and then it will become very muddy, the color, dark blue and a brown. So just being a little cautious. If you like it till the earlier stage, stop over there. I love experimenting, and since it's a sketchbook and I'm not going to tear the pages out, so I know that I can take the liberty and just keep trying things. So it's going to look a little different once it's dried. The color will become slightly lighter depending on amount of water that's been used in it. So I'm now going to wait for this to completely dry out, and I will show you the final piece, how it looks. I've added so many layers. You can't really add so many layers on 200 GSM. So when you're using it, try to use minimum layers. Okay, I'll catch you after this is dried. And with that, the painting is fully dry. I like how the artwork has come out. Of course, there are a lot of patches in the background. It was also intentional. And the paper is not very good if you have to do multiple layers of watercolors, although you can do about 2. You can see how beautiful the elephant looks and the leaves look. So with the background, I did like lots of layers because I wanted to figure out if it works or not. And it doesn't work for a lot of layers, but this is a good sketchbook if you wanted to start out. On the back side, it has not bled through, but you can see that the paper is not if it's too thick, if it's a 300 GSM paper, it will not be this way. You will not have an indication that something else is painted at the back. So for watercolors, this is all right, but for the price, I think it's a good sketchbook for you to start out doing basic artwork with. So thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you had fun and you were able to figure out if this will suit your needs. I will see you soon for the next video. Bye bye.